a 4. If I look at the camera. Get up. All right.
Former call trail, signal 80 instances of E-murder. 4107. Anyone clear?
Like many lending institutions, Sooner Federal Savings and Loan has seen an increase in business since the demise of the Penn Square Bank. But today, the S&L reported the largest fiscal year loss in its history, blaming the $7 million deficit on the gap between low interest being paid on old mortgages and the high interest that must be paid out on more recent deposits and certificates. The deficit came as no big surprise to Sooner Federal management. Last year, the S&L lost $782,000. And this year's $7,278,000 loss was almost to be expected. But according to one company official, things are starting to look up.
We've got some old mortgages on the books, but we're attacking that problem with a vengeance. We are offering special incentive programs, for people to refinance homes. It's very good for sellers, it's good for buyers, it's good for us. We get old mortgages off the books and we get new ones on at today's rates. And we're very optimistic.
Officials here are understandably concerned that their customers may equate this quarter's losses with the failure of the Penn Square Bank. But management is quick to point out that a $7 million loss in a company of this size is no real problem, much less a threat to depositors. Kurt Autry, Action 4, 50 Penn Place.
The Oklahoma City Board of Education voted last year to consolidate Eugene Field and Willard Elementary Schools. The schools are two of the oldest in the system, and the board chose to build a new elementary school for the students. This is the proposed site of the new school, the McKinley Park area. Under the board's plan, the park will be used as the school's playground. The school will actually set on these home sites near 12th and Ellison, requiring the residents, about 12 families, to sell out. One of those residents is 86-year-old Amanda Hendricks. 59 of her years have been spent right here, in her home. She doesn't want to leave, but her attitude is unique.
Well, they've got a right to, yes. I'm not a Christian for nothing. But I'm just about enough selfish in a human sort of way to want to live here until I don't need a house anymore.
Before Amanda and the other residents are forced from their homes, the school board must receive final approval from the park board and the city council. Debbie Mash, Action 4 in Northwest Oklahoma City.
When police arrived at the scene, there was no sign of a second vehicle, just an old blue pickup sitting off the road. But after questioning several people, it became apparent someone else had been involved. Witnesses told police a young driver in a gold Trans Am had sparked an argument with the driver of the truck, 73-year-old James Benedict.
She told us what happened. The Trans Am was harassing him, kept coming up and stopping and going, and then he cut him short right here, and it ran him off the road. She said that it looked like he was drinking. They were having words across, I'm sure. That's what she said.
Police say the two vehicles finally stopped in the street and an argument broke out. The heated words apparently caused Benedict to have a fatal heart attack. AmCare attendants worked to save the man's life on the side of the road before transporting him to Mercy Hospital, but he died in the emergency room. Police say they would like to question the young driver of the Trans Am, but first they have to find him, so officers are asking your help. They're looking for a young white male, believed to be 18 or 19 years old, with blonde hair. The vehicle involved in the accident is described as a late model gold Trans Am with Oklahoma tags. It was last seen traveling north at the 15,000 block of Western. If you have any information concerning the identification of this person, please contact the police. Sherry Sellers, Action 4.
as you can see, he was shot by that red vehicle over there by the door. Apparently rolled down on the ground and was carried to another car and taken to the hospital. And at this time, he's at the Midwest City Hospital, and I'm en route there now so we can get some more information.
The governors had a productive, though sometimes frustrating, session. They couldn't get a consensus on a balanced federal budget and decided to seek their own plan for a new federalism. They grilled cabinet members about grain sales and energy. And the oil producers, like Oklahoma, lost a battle over the pricing of future natural gas. Does that mean that Governor Nye was right when he feared a new civil war pitting the Frost Belt versus the Sun Belt?
"92 out of every 100 Oklahoma school children have been vaccinated against red measles. Medical officials are worried about the remaining 8 kids. The current measles outbreak is following the same pattern of a similar epidemic 2 years ago. Measles cases first crop up in metropolitan centers, then spread to rural Oklahoma. So far, about 60 suspected or confirmed cases have been identified. The sudden rash of measles cases is forcing schools across the state to get tough with kids who haven't gotten their shots.
In the past, a transfer student arriving at his new school was given 2 weeks to produce immunization records supporting that he was protected against these diseases. Because of the danger from this particular outbreak, that 2-week waiting period is being abolished until further notice, and that means that no transfer student will be admitted to his new school without clear evidence of protection against measles.
The state health department has stepped up its daily shipments of measles vaccine to outlying areas. Many local health departments have set up special clinics to immunize youngsters before school starts. At the present rate, the 40,000 available doses will be used up within a few weeks. Scott Wallace, Action 4 at the State Health Department.
Dear Norman, happy birthday to you.
And many more.
I suppose you expect me to sing something now. I'm not about to. I've been trying all day to draw some profound conclusions about living 80 years. Haven't thought of anything. Surprised I got here so fast. But I'm glad I got to spend so much time with this beautiful woman. What's her name again? And I want to thank all of you for coming all the way here from Disneyland to witness this historic event. Now that I'm out of hot air, I'm going to need a little assistance to get these candles out. Come on, everybody.
The short answer is that at best, this bank engaged in shoddy, speculative banking practices. Its problems were not due principally to the economy or even the decline in energy prices. Its problems were the result of loans which should never have been made at the values placed on them.
During congressional testimony earlier this year, federal banking officials explained why they think Penn Square Bank collapsed. That same House Banking Committee will hold a similar hearing in Oklahoma City on Monday.
Contrary to anything you might heard from rumors, we are open for business tomorrow as usual, and we'll be here Tuesday morning in business.
Congressional questioners will interview former Penn Bank officials, including former bank chairman Bill Jennings, along with 20 other bank administrators and directors. Also on the witness list is Oklahoma City businessman Robert Hefner. Hefner's firm GHK reportedly pulled $20 million out of the bank just days before it collapsed. A dozen federal banking experts and local businessmen round out the witness list. The committee will be asking two key questions. Did government regulators make Penn Square Bank follow strict federal laws laid down 4 years ago? And how much information about the bank's problems was disclosed before Penn Bank collapsed? The committee hopes to get answers to both of those questions during its one-day Oklahoma City hearing. The finger-pointing began early during the hearing. Some witnesses blamed Penn Square's insolvency on federal regulators who failed to inform the bank's directors of financial problems. Others blamed the demise on former bank administrators who made insider loans to themselves. Banking committee members criticized those federal regulators for not making sure bank directors understood the severity of Penn Bank's problems.
Here are ordinary individuals that I don't think are gifted with photographic memories. Voluminous reports, they sign a sheet, yes, I've seen the report. In reality, realistically, do you think that they remember every point in that voluminous report at the end of that meeting in which they went over that report of the comptroller?
I expect them to remember a sufficient detail from the report to enable them to live up to their responsibilities in supervising the activities of the bank.
Uh-huh.
That's their innate responsibility.
The hearing heated up when the committee called several former Penn Square officials to the stand. Bank Board Chairman Bill Jennings was temporarily excused from testifying. He agreed to appear later before the panel in Washington. 3 other witnesses asked to testify in secret. Former Bank Director Carl Swan, his business partner J.D. Allen, and former Bank Vice President Bill Patterson all testified behind closed doors. At one point, Patterson refused to supply bank records which the committee had subpoenaed.
Are you telling us that Mr. Patterson is not going to provide the documents requested?
You might ask that question of Mr.
Patterson.
I decline an answer as he might intend to incriminate me.
I'm asking you if you're going to provide the documents and the records as requested under the subpoena, Mr. Patterson. I think maybe your counsel should whisper into your ear that your answer is not responsive.
Each of the 3 secret witnesses only appeared before the committee for a few minutes, giving rise to speculation that each had invoked his Fifth Amendment right against self-incrimination. The 3 secret witnesses could be forced to testify in public when the congressional hearings continue in Washington, D.C. this fall. Scott Wallace, Action 4 at Lincoln Plaza.
Mr. Allen has requested.
Part of the problem is Governor Nye's liberal.
One candidate, Neil McCaleb, has put a little less emphasis on the media than some, going for more personal contact. But he has not ignored radio and TV. McCaleb has raised and spent less than the other 2 major candidates, with less than $25,500 going to radio and television advertising. Incumbent Governor George Nye has the highest budget according to Monday's expenditure reports. Without a major primary opponent, Nye has spent nearly $72,500 on image-building radio and television ads. Tom Daxon has outspent McCaleb and Nye combined on the air. He hit the screen early for a quick lead in recognition and to get voters to identify Daxon and Nye as possible opponents early in the race. As of Monday, Daxon has spent nearly $123,000 on his media blitz, and the campaign staff says the figure has gone higher.
It's just a political fact that television advertising reaches more people with the kind of message that we need to get across. It reaches more people, and it's the most effective way for us to go.
Candidates have to put money in TV because that's one way to reach a great number of voters. You know, a candidate's got X number of time, X amount of time is one of his primary resources, and he can only go out and shake so many hands in a day's time.
Okay, it was started circulating. If I can get all the papers. People out, I don't have anything great job. I think it's time that Choctaw County people found out what their district attorney's doing. He's not doing his job, and I feel like the people ought to know this and maybe get enough heat on him to where he will do his job.
Check your mirrors, make sure you don't have a busted mirror, check your front tires.
Oklahoma City Public Schools are in the middle of a quick driving course for people interested in becoming bus drivers. There's a lot to learn between now and when school starts next week.
Over in here, and everything in here works off your switch. This is your clearing lights, your dome lights, your master switch, your defroster fan, you got 2 of them.
Esther Torres wants to be one of the school system's 150 bus drivers. She has met all the requirements, which include being at least 21 years old, obtaining a chauffeur's license, and no more than 4 moving violations or accidents combined in the last 3 years. Of course, liking children does make the job more pleasant.
If a driver doesn't like kids, he doesn't need to come out and apply. Even though he may pass all our specifications and our training requirements, if he doesn't like kids or children, he won't be on the bus long anyway. So
school officials are confident that things will go as planned when the buses start rolling to their daily stops. The demand for qualified people is great because the school system will still need substitute drivers as well. Ed Stewart, Action 4 in Northeast Oklahoma City.
The town of 60,000 is growing so fast that water had to be rationed the past 2 summers. Midwest City gets its water from Lake Thunderbird. Its allocation is 13 million gallons a day. The only problem is Midwest City's storage tanks can only hold 6 to 7 million. And so Midwest City officials are worried neighboring towns might want to get some of that surplus water. The problem isn't that Midwest City doesn't have enough water, it just doesn't have a big enough place to store it.
Well, I think anybody that's lived in Oklahoma for any length of time can tell you that you never can tell about the weather in Oklahoma. And it's been our experience. Last year we had water rationing, and we had some the previous year. And as time goes on and the population increases in this area, I'm sure everybody's aware that Oklahoma summers get hot, and we can't expect them to cool off in the next 10 or 20 years. So we have a responsibility to the people to look far enough into the future to be able to solve these problems now.
Midwest City doesn't have a water shortage right now, but if there were ever a big fire like at this shopping mall, firemen would have great difficulty putting it out. City officials don't want that to happen, and since the water treatment plant will take about 2 years to build, they want to start on some preventive measures right away. Bella Shaw, Action 4 in Midwest City.
The halls at Putman City High School and other schools around the state were filled with the chatter of returning students. Thousands of students reported back to class after their summer break. About 1,400 students are enrolled this year at Putman City High School. Sporting their summer tan, students tried to refocus their attention from their summer break to classwork. But not surprisingly, it was not always a successful transition. This teacher tried to capture her students' waning interest with plans of school trips to faraway places. Today there were a few school books and studying materials brought to class, but that's probably as unique as the first day of the new school year. The hallways at Wilson Elementary School were quite a contrast to those at Putman City. It was the teachers that reported back to work today. They will spend the week before classes begin preparing for their youngsters. Shuffling tables and chairs was the first step in transforming the barren rooms into a place of interest and learning. The walls in some classes underwent a facelift of sorts as teachers worked on decorative bulletin boards. It's an effort to make the classrooms more appealing for the students. And this school year, teachers in the Oklahoma City public school system seem to have a contract that's more appealing than in years past. The next addition to this classroom will be the students. School in the Oklahoma City school system begins on the 30th. Debbie Mash, Action 4.
The excitement at Mike Turpen's headquarters at the Sheraton Century Center grew throughout the night. Their man was building a winning lead against incumbent Attorney General Jan Eric Cartwright, capturing the Democratic nomination, which had seemed almost impossible just weeks ago, was fast becoming a reality. Even a day later, the victorious challenger had trouble believing it was true.
And I really believed that just a few weeks ago I wasn't sure we'd get our filing fee back. And you have to have 15% of the vote in Oklahoma to get your $500 back. And I wanted that $500 back, but I wasn't sure we'd ever get it back. And now it still is a little bit unbelievable what's happened. But I really look forward to being Oklahoma's next Attorney General. And I guess it's going to happen. We still got a November election, but I think we'll do well in November.
Jan Eric Cartwright's office. Thank you.
As much as possible, it was business as usual at the Attorney General's office. Staff lawyers poured through the books. They continued to write briefs and opinions. The typing pool hurriedly turned rough drafts into the final products. Cartwright himself had gone on vacation and was unavailable for comment. But his first assistant had spoken with the Attorney General earlier in the day.
He's accepted it, though. He's accepted it as the really dignified person that he is, you know, and he's just a fantastic individual and a great lawyer in his own right.
Taylor said the staff lawyers were determined to keep things going smoothly. But this was one day it took a little more effort to get things done. Bill Ross, Action 4, at the Attorney General's office.
These men are Oklahoma City Fire Department trainees, rookies to the older hands on the force. Soon they will graduate as real firemen, but not before a crucial test, where hands-on training can be tricky business. Each of the men will get a crack at snuffing out this blaze. It's called hot fire training. The name suits it well.
Keep your lines moving, back and forth, constant sweep.
An airport firefighter tells each trainee what to expect. Technique is explained, along with the usual warnings. Keep your eyes open, watch for flare-ups, and don't forget your buddy.
Okay, gentlemen, when you're ready, let's go get it.
Ready?
Firefighters call this their nitty-gritty training exercise. It teaches the novice fireman a thing or two about extinguishing flammable liquids, in this case, jet fuel at a simulated plane crash. Another enemy to fight is fear. The men are told, above all else, remain calm and think safety. Panic, if not dealt with here in the practice pit, could be more threatening than any fire. Two teams attack the fire simultaneously. It's all over in a few minutes, with success measured in firm words and broad smiles.
Sometimes the retreat is the best tactic. Don't let nobody cool. Oh, yeah? You did exactly what you're supposed to. You got the hell out of there. Keep that nozzle down in front of you to protect you as you go.
I've still got his heel prints on my shins.
Tony Stizza, Action 4.
One look at this room and you can see why it was a record day. Over 900 people came through the inoculation line at the county health department in just 3 hours. The only other time that's happened is in 1976, when the inoculation law was passed. Most of today's visitors were school-age children.
Take a deep breath, blow it out, blow, blow, blow.
The kids aren't too happy about the shot, but no shot means no school this year. Principals are requiring proof of the inoculation before letting anyone in class, and with good reason.
We're still having cases here in Oklahoma County, and there's at least 24 other counties involved and at least 24 other states involved with having measles at this time.
Officials here at the County Health Department hope the end's in sight because their staff's beginning to feel the strain of all the extra hours. In just 2 weeks, they've inoculated over 7,000 children. Sherry Sellers, Action 4 at the County Health Department.
We've got maybe 30 or so cases that we have some evidence on here in the West, and we will continue having some indictments, encouraging the remaining county commissioners to go ahead and to plead guilty. And in the Eastern District and Northern District, they're really at more of a beginning stage.
Are being represented by the same
Well,
attorney?
yeah, I picked for a week, both one up in Tulsa.
All day.
And so I think it's going pretty well. That's the thing, though, is not necessarily whether it's typed or not. What's important.
If Laszlo and the cause mean so much to you, you won't stop at anything. All right, I'll make it easier for you. Go ahead and shoot. You'll be doing me a favor.
Richard, I tried to stay away. I thought I would never see you again. That you are out of my life. The day you left Paris, if you knew what I went through, if you knew how much I loved you, how much I still love you.
Two months ago, the Food and Drug Administration told manufacturers of diet pills called starch blockers to stop making the tablets. But many ignored the order, and the pills are still on sale at hundreds of health food stores. Yesterday, when the FDA asked a federal judge in Chicago for an injunction, the company's attorney waved the pills in front of the bench, swore they were made from a natural extract of kidney beans, were a food, not a drug, and therefore beyond the authority of the FDA to regulate. But the Mayo Clinic's Dr. Wayne Calloway testified that blocking digestion of starch can lead to cramps, diarrhea, and more serious problems. Later, Calloway added,
what we're talking about is a highly concentrated extract which has biological activity, which blocks a normal process in the body, namely digestion of starch. In the absence of tests on this, there are a number of things that we could predict that could go wrong, but until we have actual clinical studies, this is not something I think should be allowed to be distributed, not only by individuals, but I don't even think physicians should be prescribing something unless there's data to support that it's safe and effective.
But the manufacturer's lawyer, Kirkpatrick Delling, feels patients may simply be overdosing.
You can get sick on ice cream. You can drink too much water. You can drink Coca-Cola and get sick. Question is, did they follow the directions for the product?
The judge promised to decide later this week whether to bar the pills manufactured. Robert Hager, NBC News, Chicago.